Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is season 5, episode 28. My name's Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. Today I talked to Tania, who is a translator based in Helsinki, Finland, but who grew up in Barcelona. This is the first time Tania has talked to anyone else who has misophonia. She was not in a sympathetic home growing up, and she's mocked and shamed to this day by her parents. We talk about those experiences, living in different countries, living with her partner now, and the message she has for parents that have children with misophonia. This is a short but powerful episode. A quick reminder, you can shoot me an email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com about anything, or if you'd like to be on the show, you can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Misophonia Podcast. I want to thank all Patreon supporters, and if you feel like checking that out, you can go to patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast to read about all the different ways you can support. And actually, maybe the quickest and cheapest way to support is just by leaving a quick review or rating wherever you listen to this show. Anything helps bump the show up in the algorithms on the various platforms. All right, now let's get to my conversation with Tania. Tania, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
So,
it's really nice to be here.
Yeah. Well, do you want to kind of tell us where are you located?
Yes, right now I'm living in Helsinki in Finland, but I grew up in Barcelona in Spain.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've been here for 10 years.
Okay. And what do you do up there in Helsinki?
So I just graduated from university with my master's degree, but right now I'm working as a translator from home. I'm mostly home all day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Is that is translation, being a translator, something you kind of went to school for, kind of want to make a career out of it, or has it just been kind of while you've been studying?
It kind of goes both ways. So I studied Scandinavian languages, and nothing to do with translation, but it just felt natural to me to translate from Finnish and Swedish to Catalan. So yeah.
And working from home, was it something that you were doing even before COVID?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Gotcha. And was it any chance to kind of a misophonia related decision to work from home?
So I knew you would ask this, and I have to say I don't know. There's no way to know it, maybe, but I also think it has to do with the fact that I'm an introvert. So maybe both things have something to do with it. I don't know.
Right. So
but
it helps.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but I know I wouldn't be able to work in an office, for example. So.
Oh, have you had experiences in the past?
No, but I can imagine.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, you probably listened to enough of these episodes to know that it's can be kind of a disaster. Well, I guess it also depends on kind of your coworkers as well. Sometimes they're very accommodating, but okay, great. And how was well, actually, do you want to maybe go back to kind of life in Barcelona? Is that kind of where you started to notice misophonia symptoms growing up?
Oh yes. So I have to say I have no triggers when it comes with people I don't know. The only people who trigger me are family, and then now my husband here in Finland. But strangers never trigger me, except if it has something to do with I don't know, chewing gum in class or something, really rude. But yeah, so my first trigger was my dad, and I remember sometime when I was maybe 8 years old, I think I can't remember. I just noticed how my dad made some weird noise when drinking water or anything. So I remember telling him, hey, it's interesting how you make this igloo sound when you drink. and he didn't really mind this comment, but I remember it went from simply noticing this sound to being in full rage within a few days.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what happened, but I remember my dad noticed that something was wrong with me, or that something was up. So
Yeah.
so I remember that during the weekends I used to wake up very early to watch some cartoons on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and this one morning my dad came with his breakfast. It was some milk and cereal, and I got up from the sofa to go back to my room, and so he said, no, you have to stay with me until I've eaten. So then he ate his breakfast. I was forced to be next to him, and then when he was done eating, he said, okay, now you can leave.
So was that just to kind of like spend time with you, or was that to kind of like to force you to kind of take the sounds? I'm curious.
Yeah,
Do you know why?
it was to force me to take the sound because he knew I wanted to leave because he was going to eat. Yeah.
Did he? Was it? It wasn't any like malice. Was it like just kind of like, hey, maybe maybe you'll get used to the sounds. Was that kind of the? Do you know if that was kind of the reasoning, or was it in fact a little bit kind of maybe torturing? I hate to say that, but
I don't know back then, but if I look at the entire history, even nowadays, my parents mock me and tease me, so I think there might have been some malice when he forced me to stay with
okay.
him.
So gotcha. Okay, so you've so obviously you've been suffering this for a long time, and the pattern has just kind of been not taking it seriously. Obviously, there's still kind
No,
of gotcha. How like do you have siblings as well?
no, I'm an only child.
Okay, gotcha. Did your mom start to trigger you as well? Like, did the number of triggers start to expand?
So that's interesting. My mom is the only one who doesn't trigger me. I don't know why, but as a child, I would eat lunch with my grandparents, and my grandma triggered me a little bit, not so much, but my grandpa used to slurp soup really loud. So I remember telling him to please stop doing that because I knew he was 65 at the time, and I knew he was in full physical capacity to eat soup with manners. But
Yeah.
something that's interesting, he got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And when that happened, the trigger went away because I knew he just couldn't stop making that sound.
Gotcha. So your brain was able. Interesting how your brain's able to turn triggers on and off kind of a little bit more flexibly than I've heard in other situations. I mean, I'm sure this is not unheard of, but it's interesting. This is a little bit different than the norm. Obviously, a lot of overlap with the norm. And so your mom, yeah, wow, your mom never triggered you. Okay. And so how did your parents start to react? I guess growing up, you said, they weren't taking it seriously, but were they both equally uh, dismissing it? Was it dismissal? Was it constant mockery?
It was both mockery and then also they reacted in a very aggressive way whenever. So okay, let's say we had dinner together, and I would, because I wasn't allowed to leave, my reaction would be to leave. So I wasn't allowed to do that. So I would press my fingers in my ears, and so my mom would grab my arm and yell, "Take your hands off your ears." And that would happen every day, many times a day. So that was a normal reaction for them.
So that's obviously. Oh, what ages? Like, what ages did it kind of start again? Like, The usual
8 years old. Yeah.
8 years old. Okay, so how did you handle that? I mean, must have been emotional.
Yeah, it was really stressing. I just ate as as fast as I could and then left. But yeah,
So you had to, but then you had to, did you have to stay while they were eating too, or
no, no,
once
no.
you were done, you were able to leave?
So when I was done, I was able to leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then I would be natural to just try to, yeah, eat as fast as you can. Um, did you try to
Or
explain it in any,
something.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, please tell me, yeah, you're saying something
Um,
else?
no, I was just going to say that I actually tried to eat crunchy food to sort of
Drown it out.
compensate the sound. So that's
Yeah.
something I've heard many people do.
Yeah, it's the mimicking is done, yeah, sometimes to kind of drown it out. But most often the mimicking is done even if you're not like don't even have anything in your mouth, just to kind of try to copy what the other person is doing. And there's been some recent research that kind of maybe explains how the mirror neurons are involved in being overactive while we're and overly triggered while we're seeing somebody chew. And somehow, if we make the same motion, that it somehow helps us cope. It's early in the research there, but yeah. But then just straight up drowning out sounds with crunchiness is another way to go as well. Um, how did you try to, I was going to ask, like, did you ever try to articulate to them, like, hey, I mean, I know you did, but I'm just curious if you tried, um, different ways to explain to them that this is a real problem, maybe try to compare it to other mental health issues. I don't know if those were even like taken seriously over in Spain.
So I've never really tried. I think it's because they were so aggressive towards
Yeah, that must have been frightening.
my coping mechanisms that I didn't even dare to
Yeah.
say anything to them. They knew something was up, but they never asked. They just they just assumed I was an asshole. So
Yeah. And then then as you got older, it became a teenager. Did that start to affect then? Is that what, obviously you said you're starting to be more of an introvert. There's also, lots of other um, changes and things that can happen between, parents and children as they're becoming teenagers. Like, how did that evolve? How did your misophonia evolve as you got older and maybe more rebellious? Or just curious how that went when they're being so aggressive.
it got worse. I had many more triggers, and then
Mm,
my reactions would be also more. I would just sometimes I would just take my plate and go to my room to eat, and they knew that there was no point telling me to stay
yeah,
with
because at some
them.
point they can't force you, right? I
No,
mean, you're not 8 years old forever. So, gotcha. Was there any, so what were the consequences of that in terms of like, did you get punished? Was there just kind of a rift within the house?
we just had a really bad relationship, and we still do nowadays because of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, gotcha. Okay. I mean, do you talk to them at all in general, or
Yeah, I do, and I always go to Spain during Christmas. So
yeah,
with my husband, which is interesting because whenever I'm with them alone, I or before going to Spain with my husband during Christmas, I was used to do my normal coping mechanisms, but then with my husband, it was awkward to behave the same way. So I had to come up with new stuff. And now, whenever we eat all together, I have foam earplugs, which they don't know about, but my husband and I do. And that's been a lifesaver because they think I'm well,
yeah.
but the truth is that I've just found something that really helps be in the table without having to without having to leave or having to put my fingers on my ears. So
Right. Right. So yeah, so you could do the same. You could do those things maybe if it's just you and your parents. But it gets a bit weird when you run off and your husband's alone with your parents or something for every meal.
Yeah.
So did you see your husband also wears phone plugs at the table?
No, no, not my
Okay.
husband, but
Okay.
he knows about my misophonia, so
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knows that I'm always wearing either AirPods or um, phone earplugs.
Right. Right.
Sorry, foam earplugs.
Yeah. Right. Gotcha. Okay. So yeah. So you I guess you do the standard family stuff with your parents, but then it's not like there's probably too much baggage and history and resentment maybe to kind of like really I don't know get very you're not that close basically is what you're saying.
What do you mean?
Uh, you know there's some distance between your parents and yourself. Like it's you do the kind of the holiday stuff, but it's the kind of history that of all that all the reactions have kind of taken a toll. Sounds like on the relationship a little bit.
It has taken a toll, but at the same time, it's kind of hidden under the carpet. No one talks about it.
Okay,
Everyone pretends
okay.
everything's fine.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. Okay. Gotcha. And then I guess when you left probably to go to college, well, actually, how was it affecting you in school? You said it was kind of very selective with your family members. Did it affect you at school at all as you were growing up?
No, no, no,
Mm.
not at school. Not with my classmates.
And not in college either?
If someone was chewing gum in any lecture or
Okay.
maybe typing with a computer.
Right. You said it's only the strangers don't bother you at all, but have any like close friends and stuff kind of maybe bothered you, or maybe you just kind
No,
of
not at
went,
all.
okay, okay, interesting.
Just people I live with,
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
which is sad.
Yeah. So then your husband, so it was it like when you met him, obviously you're not being triggered, but when did it start there? When you signed the lease to your house or
Yeah. When we moved in,
yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 months in after moving in, so we started realizing there were some triggers. Yeah.
Right. So how did that go down then? Was it were you like, oh no? And then did you tell him right away or just kind of try to hide it as much as possible?
At first, I thought so. I was afraid this would happen. I thought it
Mm,
wouldn't, but then it happens, and I was just like, well, that's my life.
mm,
But then I didn't tell him anything for a while. But then once, so he whenever we are in bed, maybe watching something, and his face is really close to mine. When he swallows, he makes a really
the
loud
gulp.
noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to imitate the sound, and so this went on for 2 years maybe. And at one point he asked me, "So why do you swallow right after I swallow?"
Oh,
So
he asked you that out of the blue. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I had to tell him, of course, and now he knows that I need to wear um earplugs, and yeah.
What was his reaction like? What the hell did I get myself into? Or was it just like, oh, okay, sure, or do what you need to do?
He was just like, well, I know, I know you're a little bit weird, so I he wasn't surprised
Right.
at all.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, that sounds could be a lot worse. That sounds pretty good if he's able to kind of like help accommodate you um to do kind of simple things. I mean, just kind of wearing plugs and AirPods once in a while. Um, is it also the visual trigger that's part of it for you? Like, do you get a lot of the
Oh
visual
yeah,
triggers? Yeah.
yeah. But
So then
those
you must
those
have to
started
adjust
maybe
your
when I
seating a little
was
bit.
yeah. Those started when I was maybe 15 or 16, much later.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And so I guess yeah, dated like in your house now. Um, how are some of the ways that you get by at living at your house with you? It's just your husband, right? You don't have any kids.
No kids, no, not yet.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Um, so yeah, is you kind of your coping mechanisms day to day, kind of stuff in your ears, whether it's plugs or earbuds?
Yeah, basically, and also he works from home as
Mm,
well, so we are together every day, all day. So yeah, I
yeah.
need to do something about it. I need to have something on my ears,
Gotcha. Okay.
especially when we eat. Otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah, and then when you're out in the world doing whatever groceries or shopping or um, go to movies well, movies are a different story sometimes, but it's you're generally not triggered, right? Because those are strangers,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and it's all human sounds, right? Human sounds people you live with. Like it's not like um, machine generated sounds or natural sounds or animals that bother you.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think I have both misophonia and then sound sensitivity.
Mm,
So, for example, let's say someone's using one of those what are they called? Leaf blowers. You
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So
That's,
it's annoying, but it doesn't trigger me. And if I have to choose between someone eating and then listening to leaf blowers, then I prefer the leaf blowers. But of course, it's
mhm.
annoying to have them all
Right.
day long outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, leaf blowers have definitely come up a lot, and there's um, a wide spectrum from annoying to like full on rage with those things.
hmm
Okay, and have you noticed any difference? You know, living in I guess not really if you're not really triggered as much by the outdoors, but any difference between like Finland and Spain in terms of your triggers, or maybe even just kind of like people's ability to understand sound sensitivities.
I think the main difference would be that people in Finland are okay if you want to be or spend time alone,
Mm,
or they are okay understanding um, things related to mental health and
hmm I guess
issues
so, yeah, being
people
that
may
far
have.
up north. Yeah, being that far up north, I think there's more darkness, alone time, and yeah, there's probably I think more potential mental health issues being
Yeah,
isolated and in the cold and up north and in the dark. Um, a lot of the year. Um, Interesting. Okay. And yeah, I mean, now that you've kind of graduated, have you thought about kind of what you want to do going forward? And have you thought about like the effects of kind of misophonia potentially on like um, the type of work that you want to do? Because in some cases, when you're in full on in a career, it can be kind of like a marriage, and you're living with these people that you're working with. So, um, just some things to maybe think about.
mm, so you mean if my job is okay for me
Yeah, yeah.
because
I'm
I
curious,
have
like
misophonia, or
what's like kind of like your dream? Because I guess you're kind of starting. You're starting relatively early in your career. I'm just wondering if you've made if you have kind of like career dreams that may be influenced at all by misophonia, and like kind of obviously you're not going to be a leaf blower, uh, but but yeah,
um,
if you want to be remote permanently, and if you want to, be curious if you want to veer towards certain careers versus others.
I think the career path I'm right now, so working as a translator is
Hmm
good for me. I can work from home. The only thing is that I would like to have my own uh, office room so
In
that,
the house, yeah,
yeah, but that's all.
yeah, okay.
I don't think I would improve anything actually.
Do you have to do you ever have to like listen to audio of people talking to the translation, or is it just all text translation? Because I have heard of like some people needing to do translations, but then they have to listen to people talking, and sometimes that can be a trigger.
So I do both text translation, but also I do movie subtitles, but it doesn't bother me at all.
Ah, okay. That's good. Again, probably, they're strangers on the screen. So,
Yeah.
um, interesting. Okay. Okay. And have you thought about, you know, it, seeing a professional, maybe, considering therapy for misophonia or any of the kind of related issues, or you feel like it's relatively manageable if it's, limited to people that you live with?
I thought about you seeking help because as well as misophonia, I was also diagnosed some years ago with OCD.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not if I were to seek help, it's not only because I have misophonia, but also I feel like I have some kind of trauma from my past with my parents, which I have to heal.
And is that the
So
trauma primarily that all that the aggressive nature with which they treated your misophonia, or were there any kind of other issues as well?
yeah, exactly. The fact that they treated me so aggressively because of my misophonia. Yeah.
And before they did that, it was just totally idyllic childhood. There wasn't really any other issues going on or stresses.
No, no, that I remember of. I think
Yeah,
everything was fine. Yeah.
yeah. And you're all living in the same place. I mean, did you move around a lot or all, or is just like this totally normal house kind of growing up? You were born, started to go to school, birthdays, all the usual stuff. Nothing
Yeah,
out of the
yeah,
ordinary.
everything was normal. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And then there's that. It was the drinking water, right? That within a few days, things happen. Do you remember also if um do you know if looking back at your parents if they ever exhibited any misophonia? There's sometimes I hear of people seeing it in their own parents, and maybe it being some weird way of they're just kind of reacting in a weird way because maybe they don't understand their own issues.
Maybe my mom would react quite angrily at something my grandpa did, just
Mm,
this one specific sound. And something I found interesting is that so I once I asked her, so why do you get to react angrily at this sound, but then something like covering my ears is a no to you when my dad makes some sound. So that's something I find really interesting, that she would yell at my grandpa for making some sound, but then something so innocent as covering my ears, I wasn't shouting at them or anything, was really bad to them.
yeah. What did she say? I'm very curious.
Oh, nothing. She would just pretend that I didn't ask
Oh.
anything.
Oh, you should pretend you didn't say anything. But you did actually ask, and you were just kind of
Yeah,
dismissed.
yeah.
Wow. Um, yeah, that's really an interesting tidbit there. Maybe she has some issue, although it doesn't explain anything about your dad's behavior. But um, yeah, very interesting. When did you find out that it had a name, that it's a real thing?
In 2014, yeah,
Mm,
I googled I hate the sound of people eating or something like that, and then
yeah,
it came up.
yeah, yeah. And how did that feel?
Good, because
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
Right. Have you since then have you met any other misophones, either online or in person?
Oh no, this is actually the first time I'm talking to someone who also has misophonia, and I just realized right now.
Yeah,
It feels
yeah,
really
no,
weird. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you're not the only one. It's you who's come on and and said that this is the first time they've talked about it out loud. Well, outside of obviously your family, and so yeah, I hope you meet more people, because I think um, us coping, us talking about it, and honestly joking about it, laughing about it is a way to kind of to help cope, and so yeah, I hope this helps, and yeah, I hope maybe you can find other people in Scandinavia and Finland that might also have it. I'm sure there are. So yeah, that's really interesting. Um, yeah, well, I guess maybe we're getting maybe 40-45 minutes into it. Do you anything else you kind of want to share with people about your experience growing up and now with misophonia? This is first time you talked about it, but now you have this big audience of people who honestly a lot are probably like you, listening, never talked about it.
So mostly my goal today was to sort of like set an example on how not to behave if your child has misophonia. I really hope if some parent who's listening to this has a child with misophonia kind of learns that it's not our fault. If the child is misbehaving, it's not because they are an asshole. They might have some issues. So yeah, I hope that with this I can help children in some way. But
Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't. I can tell you absolutely. This is a big issue. This is a big question that comes up with parents who have kids, parents who might want to have kids and don't know if they'll get it, or if they'll also if they'll trigger the parent. So this is going to help a lot, and it's a very strong warning to people, or strong suggestion to people to please take it seriously, because it's just cruel, and the effects that it will have on a child is traumatic, and no child should have to deal with what you went through. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Did you have cousins as well? I know you didn't have brothers or sisters. I'm curious if you had anyone your age in your family.
I was the oldest cousin. Yeah,
Yeah,
but they did not trigger me.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and you were never kind of like, did they know that you had sensitivities?
My cousins?
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay. So you kept it pretty well hidden, and it was just, um, yeah, what you kind of dealt with at home with your parents. Did your
Yeah,
parents
but
ever
now that I think
tell?
of it,
Yeah.
maybe they did that. I had some sensitivities because I remember whenever there was some bigger family gathering, because I felt ashamed covering my ears. My mom would always yell, making sure everyone would hear. Okay, so now you're not covering your ears, and then everyone would think, okay, what was that about? So
Oh, really? Yeah, I was gonna ask, like,
maybe they knew
if
a little bit. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that was gonna be my next question. Was like, in a larger family gathering, did your parents did your parents tell anybody about it or make a scene about it? So your mom would point out that you're covering your ears, or kind of laugh when you're not covering your ears.
Exactly. She would point out that I was not covering my
Oh
ears
God!
then.
So it's not just when you were being triggered; it's when you were just trying to be normal, and then she
Yeah.
would make a joke about it. Oh no, that's terrible. Um, it's just, yeah, you kind of touched on. I mean, what a lot of us feel is a lot of shame and embarrassment, because we often we're just kind of, we don't need your. I mean, even without our parents mocking us, we're just kind of confused ourselves. Um, that must it must. I don't want to like dwell on it, but that must have just been just super um shame. I mean, you must have felt super ashamed and guilty, maybe, or just ashamed more, maybe so, about what you were going through. You're constantly being embarrassed.
Yeah, they made me feel ashamed, but at the same time, I knew So I think they thought or at least my dad thought I hated him.
Okay.
Maybe he thought, okay, if he hates the way I eat, that's because he hates me. So that made his own insecurities maybe made him react in that aggressive way.
It's just kind of weird because you
But,
said, everything was so normal before 8. Like it would be weird as a dad to just be kind of like, oh, suddenly my daughter hates me over one little thing. That's a weird jump to make. But yeah, it's someone who mocks kids about their own kid about sound sensitivities. I'm not going to try to predict what they think, but were they otherwise caring parents? Like obviously took care of you. Was it just this one thing that would just kind of always be between the wedge between you two?
I would say they were caring, but also they were also aggressive in many other ways. So they always had this non-assertive, aggressive way of communicating, not only regarding misophonia, but just other things.
Were they kind of very strict parents, maybe, or tough on you in school?
I think they were, but nowadays they claim they weren't. So I remember last Christmas, I was telling them how I felt when let's say I didn't do as well as they hoped in an exam at school. So they were really mad at me, and I got headaches from their madness in a way. And I was telling them that it felt really bad, and their reply was, "Oh, but we didn't really care about your grades." So
denial, kind of in denial. Interesting. It seems to be like a pattern of just kind of wanting to hide stuff and be in denial.
Maybe.
Did you have any other outlets, like artistic outlets? I'm just curious if you just kind of like retreated within yourself, or whether maybe it came out, and did you do any writing or art to kind of try to express how you're feeling?
I used to play the piano and the guitar, and I used to try to make some songs, but no, not really.
So did you ever write any songs specifically maybe about misophonia, or just kind of
No.
No. Gotcha. Okay.
Well.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, great. Tania. It's been fascinating. I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad you're not your child self anymore, and hopefully now you're more independent and have more agency to kind of you have more experience now and are able to kind of manage it a bit better, even though your husband's triggering you. But hopefully that hopefully you're able to manage that. Any kind of last words that you want to share? Your message to parents is like super important. I feel like I want to frame that.
Yeah. Especially, my message is basically to parents to be able to understand their children. Yeah. I would just like to say thank you to you for doing this podcast. It's been really interesting hearing what other people have to say. And through that, I have also learned about my own misophonia. So I think it's really important that we all share our story, and then we can learn more about ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. It's powerful for me to hear these stories. It's powerful for everyone, and I'm glad that I'm just humbled and glad that someone who went through what you went through was able to come on and talk about it for the first time. I mean, that means everything right there. So thank you, and thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tania. Again, really glad you shared your story, and humbled to give you an audience for really important messages here. If you liked this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. You can hit me up by email at hellomisophoniapodcast, or go to the website at misophoniapodcast.com. It's even easier to just send a message on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast or on Facebook. On Twitter, we're Misophonia Show. Don't forget you can support the show financially by visiting the Patreon at patreon.com/Misophonia Podcast. Theme music, as always, is by Moby. Then until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.